Pleasure to be with you. I'm glad to take your phone calls and your emails at 866-HEY-LARS. That's 866-439-5277. Emails go to talk@larslarson.com. Well, today we've been talking about Joe Biden and about the sort of answer that he made to Tara Reade's accusations. Earlier this week, Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn, who served the president for a very short period of time before he was removed by what I believe was an FBI cabal that decided we're going to set him up, we're going to get him prosecuted, we're going to get him fired, and if possible, we're going to get him sent to jail. I thought we'd talk about that tonight with Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, who joins me now. Tom, thank you very much for taking the time, and I hope you and your family are safe tonight.
Yes, same here. Thanks, Lars.
So tell me this, should the FBI itself be under investigation for the actions we now know about, where even some of their own personnel were asking, are we going to talk to General Flynn when he was President Trump's brand new national security advisor because we're trying to get him to make an admission, or are we trying to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired?
No, that's for sure. The FBI's involvement in this scandalous targeting of Flynn needs to be fully vetted. And not only that, but whether the Justice Department was involved in this as well. Because remember, this was essentially prosecuted by the Justice Department at the end of the day. So they knew what was going on here. Sally Yates, the holdover Obama appointee, was running the operation out of the Justice Department at the time. Flynn was ambushed. And, you know, on top of that, who knew what and when about the misconduct evident in the documents released this week? Why has it been suppressed for so long? I know that some of those page-struck emails were responsive to Judicial Watch FOIA requests and lawsuits. They've been slow-rolled by the FBI. Were they slow-rolling the material to cover up the corruption that was evident in those page-struck materials that we've yet to see?
Well, Tom, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm familiar with the idea of Brady. Brady says if you're accused of a crime, your defense attorney has a right to tell the prosecutor, I want all of the following documents so that I can defend my client. And if the state, whether it's the federal government or the state government, if it's the state, meaning the government, fails to give up information, it's called a Brady Act violation. It can actually result in throwing the whole thing out. It makes me wonder whether when his attorneys, and I assume they did their due diligence, asked for all the documents, whether the FBI literally committed a Brady Act violation in the case of General Flynn. I know it gets a little bit into the legal lane, which neither you or I have the credentials for, but is that an issue as to why it's only coming out now and that maybe his attorneys didn't even know about it at the time he was prosecuted?
Oh, for sure. And you have to wonder, Judge Sullivan, who's a judge handling the case here in Washington, D.C., he has a standing order in his court. The courts run the system here, and they've got orders about how you behave in their courts. Judge Sullivan saw prosecutorial misconduct in the prosecution of the late Senator Ted Stevens. So he has an even broader standing order. He wants everything disclosed. And it's pretty clear this wasn't disclosed. The FBI admitted they had no viable case. Strzok intervened at the direction of the FBI leadership. Then the detail was that let's go ambush him and see if we can get him to lie or get fired or get prosecuted. You know, you don't send FBI agents to get someone fired. It's inherently, the documents inherently show corruption in the targeting of Flynn.
Well, and in fact, if we had an FBI or other federal agencies that could be used for political purposes like that, to get somebody fired, to compromise somebody in a given administration, it would completely corrupt our system because you'd never be able to have fair elections anymore. You'd never be able to have a new administration come in and make changes because the other side would just use their deep state actors to go after the various members of the president's team, as they have, and get them either prosecuted, fired, compromised, and they'd scare the daylights out of everybody else who might even be tempted to work for a president.
Well, that's exactly what happened here. If you want to know what the origins of the coup was, this was an attack on the president of the United States, Donald Trump. He had his national security advisor who was doing his job for the president, and they concocted a crime out of the national security advisor doing his job. And look, you had Comey admitting that, the administration was young. They didn't kind of know what the rules were. And so we used that to our advantage to bypass the White House counsel to get this ambush meeting by FBI agents with the president's senior advisor.
Well, even the language he used, Tom.
Seditious coup, sedition. It's sedition in my view, Lars.
It is.
Sedition.
It is. I'm talking to Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. The fact that later on in an interview in which James Comey, the fired and disgraced former head of the FBI, laughs about the fact. He said, I would have never been able to get away with this with any other presidential administration. Now, Tom, I'll be honest with you. If the cops tell me we got this crook, we got this burglar or this drug dealer by sucking him in on some kind of sucker bet, we captured a criminal. But in this case, the FBI had decided ahead of time that the Trump administration was itself criminal in some way, and so they were entitled to go out and use deceptive tactics by one branch of government against another branch of government to torpedo a brand new president.
Yeah, and you know what, Lars? Comey has kind of gotten away with it, hasn't he?
He has.
I mean, but for the president firing him, which in retrospect is the most significant anti-corruption move by a sitting president in recent memory, where have been the prosecutions here?
None.
It's really disturbing. And still Flynn is facing prosecution. For all this evidence to come out, Justice Department has to pull the charges back yet. Maybe they will soon. His lawyer, Sidney Powell, thinks that might happen soon. But we'll see. If I were the president, I would call the attorney general and say, enough. Drop the charges.
Absolutely right. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Keep up the good work, Tom, and stay safe out there. Thanks so much for the time tonight.